Hello and welcome to our wreath making workshop here at Bowhill. Now, normally at this time of year we'd be welcoming you all in to have a go at making these wreaths here at Bowhill, enjoy some coffee, enjoy some mince pies and have a bit of a chat and blather while you're here. Unfortunately this year things are a little bit different, so we are trying this video instead, so you still get the chance to have a go at making one yourself. For making them at home, there's a few things you will need. These sort of rings we get from florist shops, you can get them online. This is kind of the base for your wreath to be built onto. Now, if you're not fancying going down the route of buying them or you can't get a hold of them, you can try using particularly bendy sticks, willow or something like that. You can bend it into a nice ring and tie it in place. That'll do just the same sort of thing as these do. These are quite easy, and if you can get a hold of them, they're quite often the easiest way to go. So you need some of them. You'll need some string. This is just garden twine, which is perfect for this sort of thing. Some florist's wire, or any sort of reasonably sturdy wire about this sort of length is absolutely fine. Pair of secateurs for clipping up any of the greenery and the holly and whatnot. You'll then need some moss. So this is fresh off the estate, but any sort of nice thick bulky moss you can get hold of would be perfect. Then you're going to need some greenery to add onto it. We've used mainly on the ones we've got here some of the cypress type stuff, but again any sort of greenery, it's up to yourselves how you would like it to look. So a bit of spruce or a bit of fir will do just the same sort of thing. You'll then need a little bit of holly, again up to yourselves how much. What I would normally go for is a few bits of just plain green holly with a little bit of the stuff with the berries separately, so I can add the berries in where we want it. Sometimes the variegated stuff that's got a little bit of yellow around it as well can be quite nice to add a bit of difference into your wreath. And then the last thing you're going to need is anything to decorate it. So we've got some cones, you can see at the bottom, a bit of ribbon on the top to make a wee bow, but it can be anything you want. You can add dried fruit, that works quite well, cinnamon sticks. You can even try adding some lights if you want, if you've got somewhere to plug them in. So, but this is what we're going to aim for at the end of the day. So, the first thing that you're going to need to do is get your ring and a ball of string, and we're just going to tie that on right at the very top. We'll just tie that on to the frame. You want to make sure you've got a reasonable tail left on the end of your string, and hopefully that's going to form a little loop that you can hang it up from. So you should have a tail on one end and then leave it attached to the ball of string at the other end. Then you're going to need to attach your moss onto the ring, and this is a case of keeping it in as big a section as you can. It tends to be a bit easier and it holds together a bit better if you keep it in one big length. We're going to squash it down in a sort of sausage shape onto the ring, hold it on nice and tight, and then just wrap the string around it, and it should form into that nice holly wreath shape. The more moss you put on, the bulkier it's going to look. That's up to yourselves how bulky you want to make it. You can make it quite a thin ring of moss, or you can have quite a lot. Just going to keep working your way around, adding on the next section of moss, and keep wrapping the string round. Now, it doesn't really matter how bulky it is as long as it's even all the way around. So if you're finding when you get to the end that you've got a slightly thinner patch, this bit's looking a wee bit thinner here, so I might add a bit more moss on there and go around it again with the string and just pack in, just so it's even all the way around. So you should be looking for something kind of like this by the end of it. Where's the top? So you should have a nice full ring of moss, even all the way around, and it should all be quite spongy as well, so that's perfect. The next stage is to start adding some greenery onto that. So I've clipped off a few wee bits here of this cypress. So maybe go for maybe three little sprigs of this. You can go for more, you can go for less, depending on what you want your wreath to look like. The longer these bits of greenery are, the more they're going to stick out the side. So if you want it to be all nice and kind of tucked right the way in around the outside, go for relatively short pieces. It looks quite nice to me as well, having them a little bit longer and hanging out the side as well. This is where you're going to need your little bits of the metal twine. So the little lengths of wire, just hook it over and then wrap it round until it's nice and secure. And then you're just going to push that long length you've got hanging out the other side, just push it straight through the moss. Watch your fingers where it comes out the other side. And then on the back, I'm just going to fold that wire over and push it gently back into the moss so that it's not going to scratch your door and you've not got anything to catch your fingers on. So I'm just going to keep adding that on, so you can keep going more or less all the way around until you've covered the full wreath. So it should, when you're finished, look something more like this one. If I can find the top. So there's the top there. So once you're happy that it is fully covered, so this one's got quite a lot just on the front. You can pack some around the inside or right around the outside as well, but you want to make sure it's nicely covered in some different greeneries as well. Once you're happy with that, you can then start adding your holly. So I would usually start with just the plain green stuff, or if you've got variegated stuff, this is where you could add some of that in as well. And if you just take a nice couple of wee sprigs of the holly and you're going to pack them in together, if you can get them to overlap nicely so you've got the fronts of the leaves all facing the same way and it all looks nice and full. And just the same as we've done with the greenery, taking these little bits of wire, bending them over, hooking them in, and this is where you do find that the holly is really sharp. And you just keep wrapping it round until it's nice and secure. Once more around there. That should hold it nice and firm. And then again, just like we did with the greenery, we're just going to push it straight through, push it in nice and tight, and then just fold that back piece over, tuck it in. So we can carry on right the way around this, adding more and more bits of holly, just working your way around until it is fully covered. You can do it, the traditional ones would have a full ring of holly all the way around so that it was fully covered. You might want to go with maybe a few more different layers of holly poking in different directions. You might want to go with holly coming up. If this was the bottom, you might want a row of it up this side and a row coming up this side. Entirely up to you. The traditional ones would have it all going the same direction all the way around. Looking something more like this one. But as I say, it's entirely up to you quite what direction you want the holly facing. Once you're happy you've got a nice layer of holly on this, we can start adding in some of the berries. So this is quite a big sprig of holly with a lot of berries on it, so we might clip this down just a wee bit. And we might even remove some of the leaves that are just covering over the front of the berries. And then once again, it's just a case of using the wire to fully attach them. So folding that wire over, hooking it round the base of the sprig, just being really careful with these that we don't knock the berries off in the process of attaching the wire. And then, if we remember where the top is, if we can find the string, it is there. So this is the top. You can then start arranging your holly all the way around, just poking that long line through and then folding it around the back. Depending on how many berries you can get hold of, you might want just a couple of bits on either side. You might want it all the way around. Again, it's entirely up to you. adding the decoration is much the same, adding that bit of wire onto it and then just pinning it wherever you want. You might want them at the bottom. This finished one we've got here, you obviously see we went for cones at the bottom and a bit of ribbon at the top, but it's entirely up to you. I've seen them hung by a bit of ribbon from the top. But this is your chance to make it your own, so add the decoration you want to have on it. Hopefully that's enough to get you up to this stage and you can have something nice you can be proud of hanging on your front door this Christmas. It's not quite the same not having you here, but we hope that's done something for you. The last thing is that if you are out collecting any materials like this, please make sure you do check with the landowner for permission to cut any materials down. A lot of places like florist shops will be supplying this kind of materials at this time of year, so florists, garden centres, they are probably your best bet for getting lots of materials like this. So from all of us at Bowhill, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we'll see you here next year.